Okay, so my sourdough making method, it's probably not the perfect method. It's definitely not the only method, but it is what works for me. So step number one is I start with a really great sourdough starter. Whether you make it yourself, you can get one for free from me. I feel like sourdough starter should be gifted, not purchased. You can buy them online as a dehydrated starter. Most local bakeries would give you one, most sourdough local bakeries would give you one for free, a small sample, or would sell you one. If you need help on finding a good place to find a starter, just reach out and I can help you out. Starting with my super strong starter, you want to make sure that it is at its peak when you're using it to make your dough. So that means that it's been fed and it's grown until it's still domed at the top, but it's not going to grow anymore. It's just before it starts to fall. It's this perfect window, and you might not hit the perfect window. You might hit when it started to fall, and it's fine. But the goal is to hit it at its peak. Okay, so you're going to use your sourdough starter. I use a scale, and I mix together my dough. So my dough is 120 grams of starter, 375 grams of distilled water, 500 grams of flour, and 10 grams of salt. I mix it all together just with a fork or your hands. You don't need to be fancy. And then I leave it sit on the counter for 20 minutes. I do a stretch. I add any inclusions if I'm adding inclusions, and I fold it in. I let it sit on the counter for 20 more minutes. I stretch and fold and leave it sit on the counter for 20 minutes. And then I do a third stretch and fold. And then I leave it sit on the counter. This is my bulk fermentation time. And so I leave it sit on the counter until it has grown about 75%. Some people shoot for 100%. I do a cold proof, and so I let it rise to 75% size. So it's not quite doubled, 75%. At that point, I take it out onto my floured surface and I shape it and place it in a banneton. And each of these steps are broken down for you in separate videos, but I will shape it, put it into a banneton, and I put it into the fridge for cold proofing. I like to do a cold proof to expand my time of hitting this perfect window. So you could just leave it bulk ferment on the counter to 100%. For me, the odds of me hitting it at that 100% when it's not underdone and it's not overdone is not perfect. So I would rather shape it at that 75, put it in the cold proof where it slows down that fermentation period and gives me a greater window of perfection. So yeah, I shape mine and I do a cold proof. I let it cold proof for anywhere from like 6 to 72 hours. And then I preheat my oven to 450 degrees. It might be different for every oven, not convection. I preheat my Dutch oven for about 20 minutes, half an hour. And then I pull my cold dough out of the fridge. I put it on my parchment paper. I score it and I put it in the oven. I bake it for 25 minutes with the lid on and 15 minutes with the lid off. I always temp my dough. So 204 degrees Fahrenheit is the temperature that you want, your internal temperature of your bread, to know that it's done. And then you leave it cool. You have to leave your sourdough bread cool for at least 3 hours so that it's not warm in the inside before you slice into it. Otherwise you will have a gummy loaf, same as you would with like a yeast bread when you cut into it when it's warm and it's like gummy. It's fine, you can still enjoy it. But if you're wanting it not to be gummy, you should wait the 3 hours before you slice into it. That's my sourdough making method, and that's what works for me. If you're new to sourdough, I really encourage you to stick to one method before learning a bunch of other methods. Just try this one out, you know, for 10 loaves of bread or whatever you set yourself to. And then if you want to experiment with other things that work for you, that's great, but I would just try to stick to one method. When you start pulling different ideas and putting them together, it doesn't always work, and then you just end in frustration. So give it a go. I hope that it works for you. Thanks for trying it out.